exactly what his suggestion is a gimmick, a revenue gimmick. And that's not what we need. We need sustainable revenue ideas. And again, it's very Mark Cubanish. He's very successful. I do think that in his heart of hearts, he's coming from a really good place in wanting more for the WNBA. Now, he's not been one to step up and to take a WNBA team to run, a WNBA franchise. I think he would be a good owner because I think whenever he's in something, he's very passionate about it. And I think you need that. But at the end of the day, his suggestion of, creating your own World Cup. Now, let's think about that for a second. We're going to go to USA Basketball and say, hey, USAB, to heck with the rest of the world. We somehow, and it's very American of us to think that we're going to pull out of the World Cup and have our own World Cup, and that the rest of the world is going to come to our World Cup. And then on top of all that, that in some way that World Cup is going to generate enough revenue for meaningful progress as a league to accomplish what we're trying to accomplish, which is, and I can't talk a whole lot about, the salaries and the revenue part of it with the pending CBA, that's frowned upon. But generally speaking, it's what we all want, whether it's players, coaches, those that are in the trenches selling our league. We're all, the revenue generation, including, Lisa Borders said it. We want the very best for, everyone that's associated with the WNBA, and we're working towards growth. And we need something well beyond gimmicks, that were proposed, by Mark Cuban.
Well, it's interesting you said that because I was trying to give him some credit. Actually, my opinion of Cuban is that he's a bit smarmy, and I don't really like him. And I know people who know him, and what they've told me about him have led me not to like him. And he also, oversaw an organization where he is very hands-on that had someone sexually harassing women constantly. So I'm not the biggest Mark Cuban fan, and I'm kind of, I was trying to give him a modicum of credit for at least having this conversation. But as usual, you're right, and I was just being too nice to the guy.
Well, I don't know about as usual, I'm right, but I'm well versed in this. So that the language that men use towards women. Again, women in business. I've heard so many, just countless stories of, you go at the heart. You want to believe the good in a person. I think he was coming from a good place. The fact that he invited her to talk about it more, because it is. I mean, everything is economics, right? I mean, there's, but we have to stop. We have to stop with the idea that. And that this can really get under my skin and really get me going in a hurry. The NBA is, each franchise is valued at a minimum of $1 billion, right? And there's some silly money in pro sports, just some really silly expenditures. You know that, you've been around it. It's really just silly money. And we have this WNBA entity. It's been around more than 20 years. We have indeed made progress. The game itself, from a business standpoint, we've made tremendous progress. I've been around from the beginning, where teams were losing in excess of $5 million a year in silly expenditures in the beginning. It was not, unfortunately, I think if we would have started differently in the beginning, because we did have huge fan bases, 15, 16,000 people in at least half the league. So revenue generation from a ticket sales was there. I think the sponsorship dollars were there, but I don't think we had our expenses in order. I think the way that we, allocate revenues and expenses now is far better than in the beginning. But it is infuriating to hear sort of the naysayers or people that want to hold women down and hold women's sports leagues down. When a franchise loses $1 million, to kick and scream and be up in arms about a loss of $1 million, when there are many sports franchises, there are men's collegiate sports universities that lose millions hand over fist, millions of dollars. And it's looked at differently. The women lose $1 million and they go, fold the league. When men's teams lose that amount of money, they figure out a way to invest differently to reduce losses or to move into the ability to profit. It's an investment mindset that happens on the men's side. The women's side, we go, well, fold the league. It's not successful. Instead of saying we're not doing enough, we have to. It's like it's a business, and so much of our challenges, to be very frank, is societal. It's how we view women, and we're pushing very, very hard. You know how I feel about this. We're succeeding. We're exploding in growth. There's participation numbers, the interest, the ratings, frankly, is exploding in a near media blackout. Women's sports don't have the benefit of daily coverage of our sport, daily coverage ad nauseum. I'm talking. You can go to whether it's Yahoo, whatever site is, ESPN, whatever it is. You don't know oftentimes that women are even playing sports because you have to go very far down the page to learn something about a woman doing something in sports. But men's sports are covered in many ways, and it is free advertising. We're going to get 3 to 4% of the coverage, and despite that, we're succeeding. So how people don't see that when we're on more, when we're talked about more, the interest grows. When the interest grows, and the money follows. And so we're growing despite all that, but we just need to have more of an investment mindset, not constantly wanting to hold women down by saying fold the league, fold the team, whatever it is. And so that can be infuriating to me when I see. And I've talked to owners. I've talked to owners that have these billions of dollars and have this company, and it's pocket change. What we do on the WNBA side is pocket change, and so like I said, it's more of a mindset. I'm so fortunate that that I get to work for an owner that believes in what we're doing and has invested, and sees a path for growth and has been so committed.
Yeah, and even if you want to take, one thing that's always driven me crazy as a sports writer who has gotten to know a lot of people behind the scenes in all the major sports is, a team will pay many of its employees almost nothing and then just take a chance on a guy who might be, the last person on the roster, and they're probably going to send down, probably don't ever want them to actually play in a game. They're just there to fill a roster spot. And that person might make $2, $3, $4, $5 million.
That's exactly right. Yeah. And that's just the way it is. I mean, that's reality. I don't, you don't try to make sense of those things. It's just kind of is what it is. And I don't, I love the NBA. I love the NFL. I love pro sports. I love the NHL. I love it all. Major League Baseball takes me a little bit more nudging. I'm happy, to support the Twins, but, overall, my thing is, okay, that's the way it is. But just the way we talk about women's sports needs to mirror that. The G League, taking on, more expenditure, introducing a higher paid player, great idea. It's an investment. It's an investment in the G League, therefore in the NBA. Let's do the same thing for the WNBA. That's really what women want, and whether it's the WNBA or any other professional women's league. I think about the Portland franchise, the MLS franchise. That this is a guy that didn't necessarily kind of walk around saying, "Hey, I think we should invest in women's soccer." It was something I think he had to be talked into. But when he assessed the situation, he went in, full steam ahead. And they sell out the place. It's an amazing franchise. And it's just, it's that story that you go, I don't understand why people don't get that, in anything that you do. I'm not saying there aren't bad business ventures out there that you can be passionate, but it's just not going to be successful. Well, that's not women's sports. People are interested in women's sports. No one is claiming that it's women's sports equals men's sports and interest. No one has said that, but there's an untapped market, and that's the name of the game in business, is to find places that you can introduce your product. And we just have just so many great opportunities, and they need to be capitalized on.
Let's talk about David Barry next, just kind of another interesting aspect of this conversation. We do want to welcome Bite Squad as the newest sponsor of the Talk North Podcast Network. Bite Squad delivers food from hundreds of Twin Cities restaurants. Order online at bitesquad.com or download their app, get food to your door in minutes. And for a limited time, Saturday and Sunday, use the promo code Vikings2018, all one word, to get $10 off your order. Also, if you're ordering any other time and you want free delivery and you're a first-time visitor to bitesquad.com, you can get free delivery by typing in Talk North, all one word. And also, thanks to our producer, Brandon Morton. If you'd like to advertise with the program, you can reach me at jsouhan47@gmail.com. Please download before you listen. It's a better listening experience. And you can always subscribe at iTunes or your favorite podcast app. David Barry has been writing, and if you ever want to follow him, he's at Wages of Wins on Twitter. He has been writing for Forbes, and he just tweeted out today, Forbes and I have decided to end things. In the end, I wrote 93 articles for Forbes, 49 on women's sports, 44 on men's sports, parentheses, that was intentional. Average women's story had 8,185 views. Average men's story had 4,117 views. An audience does exist for women's sports stories.
A man after my own heart, I think. That's what it sounds like. And that's, that exemplifies exactly what we were just talking about.
Yeah, no question. And as you said, WNBA attendance was up this year. Viewership really made a huge leap, and I think the quality of play, merited that. I thought the league, it just continues to get better and deeper, and I think that's one of the reasons your team had a tougher time of it this year. I mean, not only did you guys have some injuries and some of your own issues to deal with, but man, the league was tough.
It really was, and it kind of reminds me of I think about the NBA, the start to the NBA season. It's just our season. I think we set the tone for it. I think every team brought it early. I think in past years, honestly, I felt like, we were in a little bit different place in terms of, the sort of our window, if you will, that 7-year run, that every year we started the season, we were ready to go. And we did not, necessarily feel like a lot of our opponents matched that level of intensity right out of the gates. This summer was very, very different. And I thought that every team brought it. And I see that in the NBA right now, for most of the teams. It's winning a game in the WNBA or winning a game in the NBA. It is challenging. It's difficult if you don't bring it. If you take a 2 or 3 minute part of the game and you aren't locked in and you aren't paying attention to detail, then you're gonna lose those possessions. And next thing you know, that could be the difference in the game. And we saw that with our team, throughout the season, that we were really good at times. We'd rattle off 7 wins, and then we'd have other times that our opponent was too good, to have maybe moments we could overcome in years past. And so I do think that the level of play, that is not an issue. And we say this all the time, that the mostly men, some women, that we go, why don't like, you're a fan of the team, why don't you come to the games? They come to the games and they go, wow, I didn't realize how good these players were. And anybody that comes to the games comes back. That is not an issue. Retention, interest in the game, that is not an issue for our league, and that's a great thing. So we have an extremely sellable product, and like I said, some of the objections and hurdles that we have are outside of that. It is not about what the players are doing on the court. And I think that David Barry, he's a professor of economics at a university in Utah. And so one of the things that I've learned about him and kind of studying who he is and what he's about, I've read his book, Wages of Wins. I'm a big believer in some of these analytics. He does a big thing on wins produced. And so a valuable asset, to kind of, look at the numbers. There's a number of analytical models you could use. You can't get too consumed with it, but it's certainly interesting to look at as a base. He's done great work in that. And I think that what he has done through the years, he studies sports and sports leagues. And he just brought a very interesting perspective